June 12, 2025, began like any other in Meghaninagar, Ahmedabad. The city bustled with its usual rhythm, vendors setting up their stalls, children hurrying to school, and the hum of traffic filling the air. No one could have predicted that this ordinary day would soon be marked by tragedy. Students at BJ Medical College moved between classes, chatting with friends and preparing for exams, completely unaware of the disaster about to unfold just moments away from their daily routines. At 1:41 p.m., Air India Flight AI-171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner bound for London, suddenly lost control and crashed directly into the college's residential complex. The sound of the impact echoed for miles, shattering the afternoon calm. The aircraft, heavy with fuel for its long journey, exploded on impact. Flames erupted instantly, engulfing 3 campus buildings and sending a massive column of black smoke spiraling into the sky, visible from every corner of the city. The force of the crash was so intense, it felt like an earthquake had struck. Windows shattered in nearby buildings, and debris rained down across the area, leaving the ground littered with twisted metal and broken glass. Residents rushed out in panic, confronted by a scene of chaos: fire, twisted metal, and the wail of sirens. People screamed for loved ones, searching desperately through the smoke and confusion. Within minutes, news of the crash spread rapidly. Bystanders captured the horror on their phones, and social media lit up with frantic messages and images, amplifying the sense of shock and disbelief. Eyewitnesses later described seeing the plane flying dangerously low, its engine sputtering and trailing smoke, before it vanished behind the buildings, and exploded in a fireball that shook the ground. The devastation was immediate and overwhelming. Homes and hostels were destroyed, and lives were lost in an instant. The once familiar landscape was transformed into a scene of utter ruin. First responders arrived within minutes, but the inferno made it nearly impossible to reach the main wreckage. Flames leapt from building to building, threatening to consume even more of the neighborhood. Their priority was to contain the blaze and prevent it from spreading further into the densely populated neighborhood. Every second counted as they fought to save lives and property. For the emergency crews, it was a desperate race against time, battling not only the flames but also the overwhelming scale of the tragedy. The heat was intense, and the air was thick with smoke and fear. The crash of AI-171 was not just an aviation disaster, it was a catastrophe that scarred the heart of the city, leaving a deep wound in the community that would take years to heal. In a matter of moments, a place of learning and hope became a symbol of unimaginable loss. The memory of that day would forever haunt Meghaninagar, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. The day began routinely at Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, with the first rays of sunlight glinting off the terminal's glass facade. Staff moved briskly through the halls, preparing for another busy day of departures and arrivals. Passengers for AI-171, hailing from India, Britain, Portugal, and Canada, gathered at the gate, their faces a mix of excitement and anticipation. Some were embarking on new adventures, others returning home, and a few saying emotional goodbyes to loved ones. Captain Sumit Sabharwal and First Officer Clive Kundar, both experienced aviators, meticulously prepared the Dreamliner for its long journey to London, running through every checklist and safety protocol with practiced precision. At exactly 1:39 p.m., the aircraft lifted off the runway, its engines roaring as it climbed into the sky, leaving the city behind. For a brief moment, everything seemed perfectly normal. Passengers settled into their seats, flight attendants began their routines, and the plane soared smoothly above the clouds. But just after takeoff, the calm was shattered. A frantic Mayday call reached air traffic control, the pilot's voices urgent, the situation suddenly dire. Controllers scrambled to understand what was happening. The plane, struggling to gain altitude, reached only 625 feet before it began to lose height rapidly. Its engines, the heart of the aircraft, were failing at the worst possible moment. Inside the cockpit, the crew fought desperately to keep the aircraft airborne, alarms blaring and warning lights flashing. Despite their training and quick thinking, the loss of power was catastrophic. Within just 2 minutes, the blip representing AI-171 vanished from the radar screens, leaving controllers in stunned silence and disbelief. The silence was broken by a thunderous crash, a sound that echoed across the airport and sent shockwaves through everyone nearby. The journey that was meant to connect continents and families ended in tragedy, just 2 kilometers from the runway, leaving devastation in its wake. In a matter of minutes, a routine departure transformed into one of the darkest days in Indian aviation history, forever altering the lives of all those on board and those waiting for them. The crash of AI-171 is also a story of those who witnessed it and those who responded. Locals saw the Dreamliner flying low, engines sputtering, and knew something was terribly wrong. A tea vendor described the plane tilting at an unnatural angle before disappearing behind the college. The explosion that followed was a shockwave, windows rattled, the sky filled with fire and smoke. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but the fire, fueled by jet fuel, was overwhelming. Police struggled to control crowds and clear paths for ambulances. The swift response from local and national leaders underscored the gravity of the disaster. The human cost was staggering: 242 people aboard, each with a story and a future cut short. Among the victims was Vijay Rupani, former Chief Minister of Gujarat, highlighting the indiscriminate nature of the tragedy. The passenger list spanned nationalities and backgrounds, connecting families across continents in shared grief. In the aftermath, families waited anxiously for news, clinging to hope. Amid the devastation, one survivor was pulled from the wreckage, a rare miracle. But the scale of loss was overwhelming. By evening, 284 bodies had been recovered, including victims on the ground. Identification was difficult. DNA testing was required, prolonging families' agony. The tragedy was not just in numbers, but in the empty places left behind and futures lost. Each name represented a world forever changed. The response to the crash was massive and immediate. Within minutes, emergency sirens pierced the night as first responders raced to the scene, their vehicles weaving through city streets to reach the wreckage as quickly as possible. The scale of the disaster demanded an all-hands-on-deck approach, with every available resource mobilized. Civil aviation authorities set up control rooms in Delhi and Ahmedabad to coordinate efforts. Teams worked around the clock, monitoring every update and relaying critical information to those on the ground. Government officials held urgent meetings, mapping out strategies and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. The top priority was clear: extinguish the raging fire and search for any possible survivors trapped in the debris. Firefighters battled intense flames and thick smoke, while rescue workers braved hazardous conditions, combing through the wreckage for signs of life. NDRF teams, the Army and Air Force joined forces, bringing specialized equipment and expertise. Their combined efforts ensured that the operation was swift and methodical, with each team playing a crucial role in the unfolding emergency. The crash site's dense urban location made access difficult, but police quickly secured the area, keeping crowds at bay and allowing emergency vehicles to move freely. Ambulances formed a green corridor, speeding the injured to hospitals and giving them the best chance at survival. As hours passed, the mission shifted from rescue to recovery. Teams worked tirelessly to retrieve victims from the wreckage. Every piece of debris was carefully searched, and every effort was made to bring closure to families waiting for news. The work was grueling, both physically and emotionally. Rescuers faced exhaustion and heartbreak, supporting each other as they pushed through the long, difficult hours. Air India and Tata Group established helplines and pledged compensation to support grieving families. Crisis centers were set up to provide information, counseling, and a compassionate presence for those affected by the tragedy. The rescue operation was a testament to coordination and resolve in the face of overwhelming loss. Multiple agencies worked seamlessly together, demonstrating extraordinary commitment and unity. Every effort was made to bring comfort and aid to those affected, with volunteers and support teams working tirelessly to help families begin the long process of healing. As rescue efforts continued, investigators began searching for answers. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation and Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau launched a formal probe. The black boxes, flight data and cockpit voice recorders, were top priorities, holding the key to the flight's final moments. Early reports pointed to a catastrophic engine failure shortly after takeoff, leaving the crew with little chance. Boeing and the engine manufacturer joined the investigation, examining every piece of wreckage for clues. Maintenance records and crew training histories were scrutinized. The investigation would be complex and international, but vital for preventing future tragedies. Only by understanding what happened could the memory of the victims be honored. The crash of AI-171 will resonate for years, shaping aviation safety and the lives of thousands. The investigation's findings could lead to global changes in Dreamliner operations and renewed scrutiny of flight paths over cities. The tragedy exposed the risks of airports near dense neighborhoods and will spark debate on urban planning and safety buffers. For Meghaninagar and BJ Medical College, the scars, physical and emotional, will endure. The Tata Group's commitment to rebuild is a step toward healing, but grief remains. The single survivor's story is a rare beacon of hope amid overwhelming loss. The bravery of first responders and the resilience of the community stand as a tribute to those lost. The greatest legacy will be a renewed commitment to safety, ensuring such a tragedy is never repeated.